Hello, welcome back to DevOps. In this video, we are going to learn how to monitoring Linux and Windows Server using Prometheus and Grafana. And in this video, we are going to discuss these 5 points. What is Prometheus, what is Grafana, what is Node Exporter, what is WMI Exporter, and in last, how to monitoring Linux and Windows Server using Prometheus and Grafana. So let's start from first. What is Prometheus? So Prometheus is an open source Linux server monitoring tool mainly used for metrics monitoring, event monitoring, alert management, and etc. Prometheus has changed the way of monitoring system, and that is why it has become the top level project of Cloud Native Computing Foundation, that means CNCF. And Prometheus uses a powerful query language, that is PromQL. In Prometheus, tabs are and handles hundreds of services and microservices. And Prometheus used multiple modes used for graphing and dashboarding supports. So that's the Prometheus. So the next is, what is Grafana? So Grafana is a free and open source visualization tool mostly used with Prometheus to which monitor metrics. And Grafana provides various dashboards, charts, graphs, alert for the particular data source. And Grafana allows us to query, visualize, explore metrics, and sets alert for the data source, which can be system, server, nodes, cluster, and etc. And we can also create our dynamic dashboard for visualization and monitoring. And we can save the dashboard and can even share with our team members, which is one of the main advantage of Grafana. So that's the Grafana. So the next is, what is Node Exporter? So Node Exporter is a for server level or OS level metrics with configurable metric collectors. Node Exporter is a good solution to collect all the Linux server related metrics and statics for monitoring. And Prometheus Node Exporter provides hardware and OS level system metrics exposed by Nix kernels through metric collectors. And a Node Exporter is needed on all server or virtual machines to collect data on all nodes. And Node Exporter exposes metrics on /metrics and subpath on port number 9100. So that's a Node Exporter. So you can see here server monitoring using Prometheus and Grafana. So here you can see, so the firstly target server, Node Exporter, Prometheus, and Grafana. So in short, this server is monitored by Prometheus and visualized by Grafana. So the next is, what is WMI Exporter? So WMI Exporter is an exporter utilized for Windows Server to collect metrics like CPU uses, memory, and disk uses. And it is open source, which can be installed on Windows Server using .msi installer. And you can see a Windows Server monitoring architecture. So you can see a server, Windows Server, WMI Exporter, Prometheus, and Grafana. So Grafana periodically query sends to Prometheus, and Prometheus sends scraps to exposing metrics on port number 9182. And you can see the WMI Exporter running as a Windows service, then in Windows Server. So that's the Windows Server monitoring architecture. So next is, so let's see prerequisites. So firstly, you need a good internet connectivity. Then second, securely groups configured properly, and then any web browser. And then security groups configured on EC2 instances. So port number 9090 means Prometheus server, then port number 9100 for Prometheus Node Exporter, then port number 9182 for WMI Exporter, and the last port number 3000, that means 3000, is Grafana. So that's a prerequisites. So now, so let's install Prometheus. So firstly, before that, let me show you. So you can see here my instance with the name Prometheus, And if you go to the security, so here you can see in my security I have open port range or all port number. You can see all. So if you want any specific port number, then you can add from here. So now let's start to install. So firstly we are going to install Prometheus. So now here I'm using Mobixterm to connect my Ubuntu terminal. So clear the screen first. So now you can see here. So now we will follow this article. So I will give the link in my description box so you can install easily using this article. So firstly, we will update the system repository command. So copy the command. Okay, it's done. So clear the screen. So the next is now switch to root user. If you want to switch to your root user, so you can run the command, otherwise just skip it. So now we are going to creating Prometheus system users and directory. So firstly, we will have to create Prometheus user. So now we are going to run this command. Then now the second command for exporter. Okay, it's done. Now we are going to create directory for Prometheus. Okay. Okay, it's done. So clear the screen. So now the second step is update Prometheus user. So as user groups and directories are created successfully, which store the Prometheus data and files. So now we will have to update. So now run this command to update Prometheus user. Okay, it's done. So now the next step is download Prometheus binary file. So now we will download the latest version of Prometheus. So you can see the official page of Prometheus. So click on Prometheus and you can see here for Linux. So click on right click and copy the link address. And now we are going to download with wget. So firstly you need to inside /tmp. Then we are going to download Prometheus with wget. So yeah, it's done. So clear the screen. And the next step is install Prometheus and Grafana. So firstly, we are going to extract the files using tar command. So ls, then you can see a Prometheus. So now we are going to extract the files. Sorry, with tar using tar command. So yeah, it's done. Now clear the screen. And now you need to inside the Prometheus first. So copy the file and cd and paste. Okay, now clear the screen. And the next step is, you can see, move the configuration file and set the owners to the Prometheus user. We are going to these three commands to configure, move to configure. And now last. Okay, it's done. Now, the next step is update Prometheus user ownership on binaries. So now we will update the users and group ownership on the binaries of Prometheus using following commands. So run this command to update Prometheus ownership on binaries. The second command. Okay, it's done. So clear the screen. And now let's check the version of our Prometheus. So for that, run the command Prometheus -hyphen version. So you can see the details of our Prometheus platform, Linux, and date and version. So now clear the screen. Now the next is, you can see Prometheus configuration file. So we have already copied /tmp Prometheus. You can see here. So YML file. So now let's check our configuration file. So you can see a configuration file. So you can see here right now here only one job with the name and the port number is 9090. So we will change it. We will after installation of Grafana or Node Exporter, WMI Exporter, we will add more we will in this we will add 2 more jobs. So right now exit. So the next is creating Prometheus system file. So now we will create a system service file in this location. So for that, run this command. And now here we are going to add, so we are going to copy the below files into this directory. Control X, save the file and exit. So yeah, it's added. Now we are going to, you can see here, use the newly created service. We will have to reload the services. So now we are going to firstly reload the system first. Then we are going to start our Prometheus server. So now we are going to run the command sudo systemctl start Prometheus. Then we are going to check the status of our Prometheus. So we can see the status active running. That means it successfully installed Prometheus in our system. So now we are going to accessing Prometheus in our browser. So you can see here, run this command sudo allo 9090/tcp. Rules updated. So now firstly, to access Prometheus in your browser, so firstly you need a IP address. So copy your IP address and you know the port number of Prometheus 9090. So here you can see our Prometheus UI, Prometheus. And if you go to the status and click on target, so you can see here the running job Prometheus and state is up. That means it's running. So now our Prometheus is successfully installed in our system. So now it's done. So now we are going to installing Grafana. So the next step is we are going to installing Grafana. So for that, so firstly download the Grafana GPG keys with the wget. So you can see here the command. So now we are going to install Grafana. So clear the screen and now copy the command. So okay. So the next is add the Grafana repository to your apt resources. So for that, run this command. So yeah, it's also done. So clear the screen first. And now the next is to update system packages. So run this command to update system package. So yeah, it's also done. So clear the screen. And now the next step is you can see here, you can now proceed with the installation. So now we are going to install Grafana. So yes, I want to install. So you can see here it's installing Grafana on Ubuntu. Yeah, it's done. So clear the screen first. And now the next step is you can see a start. So once Grafana is installed, use systemctl to start the Grafana server. So use this command to start our Grafana server. So now let's check the status of our Grafana server. So run this command sudo systemctl status Grafana server. So you can see running. That means it's successfully installed in Ubuntu. So it's successfully installed. So the next is you can see here. So it's installed. So now finally enable the Grafana server. So run this command to enable Grafana service. So okay, it's done. Now to access Grafana dashboard, so open your favorite browser and type IP or name. So as you know, the Grafana port number is 3000. So for that, you need your IP address. So copy your IP address and copy the browser. So paste in browser, and the for Grafana port number is 3000. So you can see a loading Grafana. And you can see here, you can see login page of Grafana, and now you will have to log in with Grafana default username and password. So your default username and password is admin, username admin, and password also admin. So you can see a login page. So username admin and password also admin. So login. Now it's always good to change your login credentials. So now enter a new password. So for more security, and submit. So you can see your Grafana UI, that means dashboard. So you can say welcome to Grafana. So that means Grafana is successfully installed on our Ubuntu. So it's done. So the next is configure Prometheus as Grafana data source. So for that, firstly, you need to click on the settings and configuration, and then click on add data source, and here select Prometheus, and now here you need to paste the URL of your Prometheus. So copy the URL and paste here. And now after this, so you can see as per your requirement, you can do other changes, or you can also keep remaining configuration as default. So if you want to change, then you can change. So otherwise just keep it default. And now click on save and test. So you can see data source updated. Data source is working. So it's done. So the next step is, now we are going to install Node Exporter. So Node Exporter collects the metrics of your system, memory uses, CPU uses, and RAM, disk space, and etc. So now to install Node Exporter, so firstly you can see the official page of Prometheus. So you can see a Node Exporter. So here you can see for Linux. So Node Exporter for Linux. So for Windows, the another exporter that with the name WMI Exporter. So firstly, we are going to install Node Exporter. So click on right and copy the link address. So for now, firstly, the first step of installing Node Exporter is you need to inside the /tmp first. So now clear the screen. And then install Node Exporter with wget. So you can see it's done. So clear the screen. So the next is unzip the downloaded with the tar command. So run this command to unzip Node Exporter installer. So yeah, it's done. So the next step is, you can see move the binaries files of Node Exporter to this location. So run this command. So yeah, it's done. So next, create a Node Exporter user to run the Node Exporter service. So for that, run this command. So copy the command and paste here. So yeah, it's all done. So now clear the screen. Now the next is create a Node Exporter service file in this directory. So run this command, and now we are going to add the lines, means add some content in this directory. So copy the content and paste in that particular directory. So save the file and exit. Now let's start and enable the node exporter service using below command. So firstly, you need to reload the system. Then we are going to enable node exporter. Then we are going to start node exporter. And now we are going to check the status of our node exporter. So you can say active running. That means it's successfully installed in our Ubuntu. So now it's done. So now the next is, now we have converted to how to install Prometheus and Grafana on Ubuntu with node exporter. We have covered. So the next is configure the node exporter as a Prometheus target. So for that, now to scrap the node exporter, so let's instruct the Prometheus by making a minor changes in our prometheus.yml file. That means our configuration file. So now we are going to add one more job in our configuration files. So firstly, we are going to command to open our configuration file. Firstly, clear the screen first. And then you can see here only right now here only running only one job. Now we are going to add one more job here with the name node exporter. So copy, and now we are going to paste here. And now job name is node exporter. And the host IP is our instance IP. So copy instance IP and paste here. And our for node exporter port number is 9100. So you have to proper indentation. So let's check first. Okay, it's correct. So now save the file and exit. So the next is, after changing in configuration file, you need to restart to Prometheus. So now restart our Prometheus service. Okay, it's done. So now let's check in browser. So for that, copy your instance IP and your port number for node exporter 9100. So you can see exporter matrix. So you can see the matrix of node exporter. That means it's successfully installed. So now, and if you go to the Prometheus here and click on Prometheus and go to the status and click on target. So you can see here there are two jobs running, node exporter, sorry, in target, node exporter and Prometheus, and both status up. That means it's successfully installed and it's successfully added in configuration file. So now it's done. So the next is, now the next step is, you can see here, import. So now we are going to, here you can see, we are going to creating Grafana dashboard to monitor Linux server. So now firstly, you can see in Prometheus here in Grafana dashboard, we click on, go to the home page. And here you can see the plus icon. So click on import. Now we are going to creating monitoring Grafana dashboard. Sorry, Linux. So for that, for Linux, you can see here for Linux. So you can see, so we will use 14513 to import grafana.com. So firstly, we are going to import 14513 for Linux. So click on load. And here you can see name Linux exporter node. And if you scroll down, select Prometheus as default and click on import. So here you can see our Linux dashboard. So you can see monitoring Linux server using Grafana and Prometheus. So it's done. So the next is the next step is we are going to install WMI Exporter on Windows Windows operating system. So for that, here I have created Windows instance. So now we are going to connect to our Windows instance. RDC. Click on connect. Paste the password. So yes. So here you can see I have already installed WMI Exporter. So if you go to the, you can see here in my article, you can see, click on here. So you can go to the release page, and now here install .msi installer. So now we are going to install WMI Exporter on Windows. So yeah, it's installed. So let's check. So go to the service, and here if you scroll down, you can see a WMI Exporter and the state is running. That means it's successfully installed. So let's check. So copy the IP of Windows instance, and the port number is 91824 for WMI Exporter. So you can see the matrix of Windows Exporter. So you can see the matrix of Windows Exporter. That means it's successfully installed. So now we are going to change configuration file. That means we are going to add one more job in our Prometheus configuration file. So you can see in my article, you can see now we are going to configure the WMI Exporter as a Prometheus target. So for that, run this command to open our Prometheus configuration file. So clear the screen. Now we are going to add one more job in our Prometheus configuration file. So clear the screen and now run the command. Firstly, we need to inside the /tmp. Then, so now we are going to add here one more job with the name WMI Exporter. So copy and paste here. And now we have the proper indentation in WMI Exporter. And the IP of WMI Exporter means host IPs. So Windows host IP. So copy the host IP. That means our Windows instance. Then the port number of WMI Exporter is 9182. So save the file. So take the indentation is proper. Yes. So save the file and exit. So as you know, after changing in configuration file, you need to restart our Prometheus. So for that, we are going to restart our Prometheus. So yeah, it's done. So let's check the status of our Prometheus. So yeah, it's active running. So let's check in target. So go to the Prometheus, click on Prometheus homepage, go to the, now click on status and click on target. So here you can see WMI Exporter. So click on show more. So you can see the state is up. That means it's running. So you can see in target, there are three was are running. Firstly, Node Exporter, WMI Exporter, and then Prometheus. That means it's successfully installed in our Ubuntu. So now the next is we are going to so you can see next is creating Grafana dashboard to monitor Windows Server. So for that, go to the Grafana and here you can see firstly go to the home page. And now click on plus icon. So and then click on import. And here for Windows, for Windows, so you can see for Windows, the number is 14510. Click on load. Then you can see the name Windows Exporter node. So folder is general, and if you scroll down, the select Prometheus as default, and now click on import. So now you can see Windows Exporter node. So that means monitoring Windows Server using Prometheus and Grafana. So you can see the data. So here you can see the Windows Server, monitoring Windows Server using Prometheus and Grafana. So yeah, it's done. So you can see that there you are done with the setup. Now your dashboard is running up. So you can see. So in this article, in this video, we have learned how to monitoring Linux and Windows Server using Prometheus and Grafana. So thank you for watching our video. I hope you like the video and it's helpful to you. So please like, share and subscribe our DevOps channel.